Good evening. It is Thursday. Tonight we have NASCAR driver Matt Jaskol on the show. Matt, welcome to the show.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me on.
Hey, no problem. So you're actually our first active driver that is on our show since our rebrand back in November. So welcome.
Yeah, very cool. Thanks for having me.
Awesome to have you.
All right, so Matt, we're just gonna normally we have like 10-minute interview sections. However much time you have, you feel free. We're a 30-minute show. So how much time do you need tonight?
Yeah, about 15 minutes works perfect. I got to get to some other appointments and get ready to head out of town. So,
all right, that sounds good. All right, Kevin, why don't you go ahead and lead tonight?
All right, well, everybody, welcome to Motor Racing Podcast. We have Matt Jaskol with us, Truck Series driver, our first current active NASCAR driver. Matt, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Mostly Xfinity. I only did a little bit of truck racing in 2022, but yeah.
Xfinity, well, even better. Hey. So, Matt, tell us a little bit about your racing roots, man. You know, where'd you get started racing, and how did you end up in the Xfinity series?
Man, well, my story, like many, is complicated and weird and a cool journey. But I'll make a long story long, as I always like to joke. It's a little Travis Pastrana saying. I'll try to do the best I can. But yeah, so I came from the open wheel background, like go-karts and stuff, kind of, cool and relevant to NASCAR. Is I was racing go-karts as a young man at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway before the Speedway was even built. So meaning so I was racing motocross out there in the 90s, and there was only a little go-kart track, a motocross track, and the bull ring. And so what's funny is, man, I didn't even meet the Bush brothers until like 2005, and I was racing go-karts in the early 90s. We're talking like 92, 93, 94. Well, the Bush brothers were starting their career out at Pahrump, which was like a desert town way outside of Vegas. They had a dirt track out there. They were racing like dwarf cars and stuff, and I never even knew these guys because I was on a totally different path. And so I was an ex F1 Red Bull, F1 development driver from that whole American F1 development program way back in the early 2000s with like Scott Speed and some other guys. And so that was in about like 03, 04. And so when I was on that journey, the Bush brothers were obviously coming up through NASCAR. And then it wouldn't be until like 2006 that I started racing super late models at the Bull Ring. And then 2007 had a couple run-ins with Kyle Busch at the Bull Ring. Nothing bad, just like where he would show up randomly for one of the bigger races, and was lucky enough to beat him one or two of the big nights out there. And so yeah, and then like just like again, crazy life story. Like things happened. The economic collapse happened in 2008. My racing career really kind of came to a stop in that era, and was just working in motorsports, man. Was like living here in Vegas most of my life, was working at a racing school or like a driving experience called Dream Racing for many years. I was the chief instructor out there, and was always, fighting to get back in a car like a lot of drivers, but also fighting to pay bills and just and make it through everyday life. And so during that time, I was always, I would stay active the best I could. I'd do a big kart race. I would do maybe a sports car race, once or twice a year, and I would jump in like a late model truck, something like that. And anyways, just trying to stay in a car the best I could, stay sharp. And again, I could go off on an hour-long story about where life went, man. Like in 2017, I went into a TV show called Castaways on ABC, and I survived.
Oh, no way, man.
Yeah, I survived in a jungle for 42 days without food or shelter, and did that experience. And then got back into it, was lucky enough with the help of a friend, got back into a race car and a sports car and raced in 2018. And so anyways, long story to not take up too much air, but just to tell the story. So then how I got into NASCAR, which was crazy, is then the pandemic hit, wasn't freaking racing. I was trying to fight my way back into motorsports, and I was working in IndyCar. I was like spotting for Marco Andretti in the Indy 500, and I was making a bid to start the Indy 500, which was a big deal. Obviously, I was lucky to even get approval from IndyCar because of my background and my pedigree. That was their way of putting it. They granted me the right to race in the Indy 500 if I could come up, if I could find the sponsorship, where some drivers don't even get approval, and the fact that I hadn't raced professionally in 10 years had said a lot about the work I had done in the early part of my career, and they were willing to give me a shot. And I tried. I gave it a real hard effort. But I mean, man, to do the Indy 500 is about $1 million, and so I came up short on trying to find the money to do it, like a lot of drivers do. And then the pandemic hit, and there was no racing. And then in 2021, it was like February 2021, like the NASCAR season had already started. I get a phone call from a longtime friend, a guy that I met at a go-kart track when I was only 15 years old. So we're talking more than, he calls me at the time, I was like 36, so we're talking more than 20 years down the road, calls me, and we'd stayed friends throughout the years, and he lives here in Vegas. And he goes, "Hey, Jaskol, listen, man, I've kind of made it. I got some money. He started a company called Lift Kits for Less. And then he had created a bigger brand called Auto Parts for Less, which you guys might've seen. That was my title
I've
sponsor.
actually bought several parts from them for the Sequoia I have sitting out in the driveway.
Oh,
So
wow, that's even better, man. I'll have to tell him you're a customer. That's awesome. So he's fighting, man. He's a publicly traded entity, and he's fighting against he's fighting against big e-commerce like eBay. He's competition. He basically is the same as eBay Motors and Amazon, and it's a multi-vendor marketplace. He doesn't sell the parts directly. It's a marketplace for parts, kind of like eBay Motors, but a much better buying, and even better, more importantly, a better selling experience for sellers. And so he created that brand and had some money, and was like, "Listen, man, I've always believed in you, and I followed your life, and I know you never really got the shot you deserved, and I it's not going to be a great effort. We don't got a ton of money, but I'd like to his dream was to always be in NASCAR as a sponsor." And so he goes, "I want you to drive for me." And it's a cool story that you guys would probably appreciate. Like, again, I had not raced professionally in a decade. It's like I had a name, I had a background, but I hadn't raced in a very long time professionally, and certainly never in NASCAR in the top levels of motorsports. And so we called, so we get together with Carl Long, and that was, it's a great guy, and he was willing to help us, and also the budget that we could work with. And so we called Brett Bodine, who's in charge of driver approvals, and it was a funny story, man. We're sitting at the Vegas race in March. Okay, so we're at the spring race in March 2021. We get in the hauler. We're trying to strike a deal. We're getting to know Carl for the first time. He doesn't know who the hell I am or anything, and we call Brett Bodine right there in the hauler, and Brett is like, "Who? Yeah, I think maybe I've heard of him. I don't know. What have you done lately?" And we start talking. He goes, "So you haven't raced professionally in 10 years. You haven't raced a super late model or anything in like a decade, and you want to just jump in NASCAR." And we were like, "Well, yes, sir. That's what we're trying to do." And he goes, "All right, tell you what, I'll give you a shot. I'll approve of you to run Martinsville. And if you don't screw up, you can keep moving forward from there." And so 2021, we made a start in Martinsville. And what was wild, and again, I mean, like, some people would never understand, and luckily even some drivers appreciated it, was I was showing up to tracks that I have never seen, cars I had never touched. I don't even know where the buttons and the switches are in the damn thing. No practice, no qualifying, because it was the COVID rules still. Yep. So straight to the green flag. So I showed up to freaking Martinsville, Dover, Darlington, Texas, just like I had my career best finish at that year. At the time, I've actually, I think my career best finish now to this point 17th. But we, I think like my fourth or fifth Xfinity race ever was Mid Ohio. I hadn't been to the Mid Ohio track in about 15 years.
My home track.
Oh, nice, man. Beautiful. I love that track, man. I love it because it's a driver's track. It's a tough track, and it's just
hell yeah, it is.
Yeah, and it's a cool play, dude. It is a driver's track, man. It wears you out. It is tough. I mean, man, that was one of the most exhausting races I'd ever climbed out of. It was middle of the summer and everything. So, but anyway, so we show up, and I haven't been on the track in 15 years. I've never banged a gear or used the brakes in a road course on an Xfinity car, and I had to just go straight to the green flag. And the straightaway there in Xfinity is like 170 miles an hour. I mean, it's not a joke. I mean, you're pedaling down that straightaway. And so it's funny is for whatever reason, because of points, we didn't have to start 40th. We were going to start like 37th. And Carl comes up to me and he was like, "Hey man, do you mind like just starting at the back just till you get the feel of things. I'm like, dude, was already going to do it. Don't worry. So for the first like 2 laps, I just kind of fell to the back, figured out the car. And then I literally got on the radio, man, like, like out of the movies, like I'm going for it and take it off and drove more than halfway through the field. It was pretty
Sounds
sweet.
like a Days of Thunder. I'm dropping the
I literally did, man. I like after 2 laps, they're like, how's it feel? And I was like, good. I'm dropping the hammer, and proceeded to make a solid run halfway through the field, man. I think we were up to like 14th, and I again I was trying to just it's like you're trying to prove yourself, but you're also just trying to
take care of the equipment
and not screw things up, right? Like I'm going to be racing part-time. A lot of other guys. So I was racing, I'm dicing it up, freaking Allmendinger's there and this and that. I mean, I'm there inside the top 15 and we're competitive. I'm running lap times less than a half second off the leaders and stuff. And everybody was just getting dicey and getting kind of stupid, just fucking blowing corners, locking up, smashing into us. So I just kind of like, I hate to say it, but I kind of laid it up a little bit. Like, listen, finishing 19th or finishing 15th is really not going to change our life much, So, and Carl was like, just keep it in the top 20. I was like, all right. So I just tried to mind my business. And anyways, that's what, for more or less, that's what the racing was like for me for most of 2021. And then you guys might, again, some people remember it. It was some fun drama at the time, but I, going into 2022, we wanted to do as much Xfinity as possible, but we had, again, tight budget. And I had convinced the sponsor, like, listen, rather than do like 8 or 10 races in Xfinity bouncing around, I was like, we need to try to do a full effort. I said, we got to be there every weekend. And so let's try to do a truck deal. And so we ended up getting mixed up with G2G Racing. And as some can imagine, that was a bit of a disappointment, bit of a mess on everybody's part, not just my part, I'm sure theirs as well. But, so that kind of imploded, unfortunately. And it sucks because even though the team was, kind of fumbling around and was new and, equipment's falling apart a little bit, I think there was still potential there, right? Like I showed up to Atlanta. I had never been to Atlanta. This is now the track's new. It's like a super speedway. We didn't make the field for Daytona. And my teammate was Johnny Sauter. So Johnny and I show up to Daytona. The equipment's way off the pace, and he was actually, I was proud because I was actually 0.2 faster than Johnny at Daytona during qualifying. And we had, identical cars essentially. And he got to start because he's a past champion. So he had a provisional. I didn't make the show. And then we go on to a couple races again, like, a little bit of, fumbling around. We do Atlanta. And I finished like 17th. I think we run up, and I again run it up into the top 15. And we started dead last again because it got rained out, so I barely got to practice. No qualifying, and never been there. Drove up halfway through the field yet again, and then everything just kind of imploded. Unfortunately, the team kind of imploded on itself, and we didn't have enough budget to go anywhere else, anyways. And so that kind of ended my year in 2022, and then. I was able to find a little bit of funding, and I did Portland road course for Carl. We had a good, decent finish, top 20 there in the rain. And then I did my hometown Vegas race, and that was it. And then I unfortunately haven't been in a car since October 2022, just for the normal stuff, man, funding and I, it's hard to go find money when you gotta, I'm on the road just trying to make a living, pay my bills. So I don't come from like family money where I can, sit at home and
generational wealth.
Yeah, I don't like my parents were hardworking people and now I kind of take care of them, to be honest, so that's where I'm at with that. And something else that was cool is that, and hopefully to pull it off again is, I'm a professional skydiver, and you guys might've remembered the guy that jumped into his Xfinity race in 2021. That was me during the driver intro. So that was pretty cool. And,
was you. That was sweet.
Oh, wow. That was
yeah. So that was in 2021. I was the first racing driver in history to skydive into his own race. So I raised $10,000 for Speedway Children's Charities, which was cool. And then again, that was a cool event because that was in 2021. It was my first time racing on the oval. It was my first time. I mean, man, like lived in Vegas my whole life. I've been on the oval. I've been I've been like the 2-seater driver for like the Mario Andretti experience. So I've been around the oval and driven at pretty high speed. I did like an IndyCar test there when I was just a teenager, so I'd been on the oval at speed. but never in a race. And so it was a big deal. It was emotional to me, for my family, my friends, sponsors, partners, to race a professional race in my hometown. And yet again, no practice, no qualifying. We had to start dead last 40th. And again, it was pretty wild, man. You're going, it's 190 miles an hour into turn 3 on lap 1. And like, just, you don't even know, like, I'm just like, I hope that, I don't even know what the car is going to feel like. And man, skydived into the race, jumped out of a helicopter, skydived in, walked to the car. From the time that I jumped out of the helicopter to drivers start your engines was less than 30 minutes. And we finished, I think 22nd, which was a pretty respectable day from dead last. And it was good. It was a good effort. So
that's awesome. So Matt, upon looking at your career, what was it like racing in the Freedom 100 before the day, 2 days before the Indy 500? What was that like?
Man, that was special, dude. Like, and that was going even further back than that. In 2004, I was racing for Red Bull as an American Formula One hopeful. And I got the opportunity and the honor to race at Indy on the road course during Formula One weekend, and I won. I won on Sunday. Yeah, dude, and it was amazing because the Formula One race raced right before us. So we actually, even though we were a junior support race, it was called Formula BMW, similar to like a Formula 3 car, And so even though we were a support race, it's like we raced Saturday and Sunday. So we raced on Saturday before like whatever other events, and then we raced Sunday during Formula One, but right at like immediately. So the Formula One drivers, Michael Schumacher, Rubens Barrichello, while they're sitting on the podium, Michael won that day for Ferrari. I think Rubens was second, and so they're having their champagne and their award ceremony, and we're starting our race. And I won, man. And it was cool. Like James Hinchcliffe, famous IndyCar driver. And so
my
James,
dog.
Yeah, dude, James is a good buddy of mine to this day. So James was on the podium with me, and it was a good year. I mean, there was like,
we might have to try and get him in on the show.
That'd be cool, man.
Kevin, I'm on it. Kevin,
Yeah,
I'm on it.
He's a good man, dude. I love that guy. He's one of the best guys I've ever met in motorsports. So
my favorite IndyCar driver of all time.
Yeah, and he was a hell of a driver. We had some really good battles that year. So he was second to me that day, and there was some other good drivers, like Graham Rahal was racing that year, and some other pretty solid, guys who've gone on to be some pretty badass sports car drivers. So it was a cool year. So I won there in 2004, and then 2007, years later, I get to race the Freedom 100 there. And again, it was a stacked field. It was back when Indy Lights was just mega, man. There was 30 drivers in the field. Current IndyCar drivers were there, and racing against, like Andretti Motorsports, Sam Schmidt, Ganassi Motorsports. I mean, like all the top dogs had teams in the field, and it was tough, man. And yet again, was running a fairly low budget team, and ran third place most of the race, which was incredible, and finished up fifth. And yeah, I mean, I knew we probably didn't have a shot at it. On the ovals, just like super speedway stuff in NASCAR, man, it's all about having a good car. And but just pedaling around there in the Indy Lights car, we were like 205 in the draft. It was intense, man. Like you're going into turn 1 at 200 miles an hour, and I try to tell people, I'm like, at Indy, when you go into turn 1 at 200, it's like the corner looks not even flat. It looks like it's off camber, and when you're standing there, it looks like a big track. But when you go in the car, it looks about this narrow going in there. So it was amazing. Driving by yourself, you get pretty comfortable, and it's honestly fairly easy. The car's set up pretty good. You can kind of cruise around flat out. But when you're in the dirty air, especially on an open wheel car, man, and all that turbulent and dirty air and stuff, it's wild, man. And there was a lot of crashes because of like aero wash, just like a fighter jet. Like I'd see a guy in front of me
driving before the time of the Halo, weren't you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, this was way pre-Halo, man. So it was the shit that I prefer, man. It was wild. It was fun. I loved it. Man, there was nothing about it I didn't like, to be honest. And yeah, I think about it all the time, man. I wish I could go back to those days. It was pretty wild. And one of my goals for this year is I'm trying to work with Carl and see if I can do it, is to run the Xfinity race at Indy, just because Indy's a special place, man. If you're only gonna do a few races a year, that's definitely at the top of my list, other than the hometown race, is to do Indy. So
Yeah, see, that's how it is. See, that's how it feels to have a hometown. See, my hometown track is Mid Ohio because it's like an hour away from me. Last year, I had the opportunity to volunteer for Club Racing Inc. in the Arkham and Art Series, and it was like bittersweet and tears in my eyes because it's like I'm at a track that I've lived around for so many years and never attended. And that day, you had guys like Marco Andretti there for the Truck Series, Frankie Muniz racing,
Yeah,
and it's just like,
cool.
and it was like a bittersweet day for me. So that's a beautiful track. And speaking of Indy, my first Indy 500 was 2015. Juan Pablo Montoya went from 33rd to first.
Oh man,
But I
that's
didn't know the
awesome.
race, so
I
yeah.
I might have been there, man. Like I spotted for Marco like 2018 or 2019 through 2021 or 2022.
Yeah, I was
And
at the 2017 one as well. When Takuma Sato won in 2017, I was at
there.
that one too.
Yeah, so yeah, I was there. I was there for that. I was yeah, so I've been to a lot of I think I was there in 2015 for that one possibly, but yeah, I've made quite a few of them over the years, and I didn't make my first one. What's funny is my first one wasn't until I was racing there. So in 2007 when I finally raced the Freedom 100, I went to the Indy 500 obviously the next day, or on we raced on Friday on Carb Day, and then I went to the race on Sunday. That was my first Indy 500. And then yeah, I was there in 2011. I was there for I think both the Takuma Sato's wins. I was there when Buddy Rice won. So yeah, I've been to a lot of them. That was after. So that Buddy won in 2004. But yeah, I've been there for some pretty cool spectacular. Being there, I was spotting for Marco during the COVID one, which honestly, as much as it was like sad and weird, it was historic, right? So the first time the race
and a fun race too. It was an enjoyable race.
I mean, not as a spotter. It is not fun spotting. You're not enjoying the race. It's stressful. I don't like that job at all. I mean, it's cool to be a part of the race, and it's like I'm honored to be a part of it, especially like spotting for Marco, who's been a friend since he was a kid and stuff. And but man, it's a stressful thing. You don't get to really enjoy the race. But being there for the COVID one, that was wild, man. No fans and everything, and that was cool. And then I got to be there the very next year and seeing the contrast from 0 fans to like 80% capacity the next year was cool. It was fun stuff.
Yeah, Kevin and I are actually planning to try and attempt to go to the 110th Indy 500 next year. So,
nice. Yeah, good.
I've never been to an IndyCar race. Just recently, within the last season, getting into IndyCar, and I think the first race I watched was the Gateway race last year, and Joseph Newgarden just so happened to win it. So,
oh man, you got to do Indy, man. Indy 500 is just so. It's just man. It's insane the amount of people there. You know, about 350,000. It becomes the every year Indianapolis Motor Speedway becomes the second largest city in all of the state because there's so many people in one place. It's a special thing, man. It's the greatest spectacle in racing. You got to be there.
Yeah. Well, Matt, thank you for being a part of Motor Racing Podcast today. We enjoyed hearing your racing story. You're welcome to come back after your IndyCar race later. Not IndyCar, I'm sorry. Xfinity race later this year.
Yeah, hey, I was just going to say, I'll make it a goal to make sure I get in a car this year so we can come back and talk about it. I appreciate you guys.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Thanks, Matt. And just reach out to us via email.
Thanks, boys. See ya.
Yeah, see ya. Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah. That was cool.
Yeah, he's laid back. He's cool. Matt's an awesome guy.
Oh yeah, but in the 5 minutes that we have remaining, that took up pretty much the whole show. But let's go ahead and finish out the Cup race from Sunday. Give me just a second. Yeah, actually, how much time do we have left? Hold on, let me check my time.
6.5 minutes.
No, hold on. No, we got 8 minutes. I'm going to stop my time. But I started a little bit early. All right, let's see. So I actually pulled up the 2007. Whoa! Almost hit the wrong button. Fuck! Almost took off live. Oops. Anyway, back to Coda. So let's see. So here's your overall running of all of the field of 39, just close to 40. So here was your overall finishing from. This is the continuation. For those of you who listened on 2 days ago, this is the continuation from the final because we kind of ran out of time because we was talking about IndyCar and Formula One. That's probably going to happen a lot, or we're going to have to split it up into like 2 recap shows, which I'm perfectly fine with that. That's why we have the 2 30-minute shows.
Mm-hmm.
So So William Byron is the winner. Christopher Bell second. Ty Gibbs finished third. Alex Bowman fourth. Tyler Reddick fifth. Tyler Reddick was having an amazing day too. He led one
Kind of
lap,
a little bit
one
of
lap.
up and down day. Ran top 5 pretty much all day. Led several laps. But I think they said they were fighting a loose race car all day, that they just couldn't get it tightened up. Every stop that they made, it seemed like it either got worse or it just never got better, even if it remained the same. And they were just fighting a loose race car all day. But it seems like most of the Cup guys said that they were fighting a loose race car all day, that because of the cloud cover, there wasn't much grip, especially in the heavy braking zones. And I think that's why we saw a lot of tire lockup.
Right. And then 6th was AJ Allmendinger. 7th was Ross Chastain. Chris Buescher was 8th. Kyle Busch was 9th. You should have mentioned that you was a Kyle Busch fan to Matt. Maybe next time. But then we got Mark Truex Jr. 10th, Joey Logano 11th, Ryan Blaney 12th, Chase Briscoe 13th, Denny Hamlin 14th. You got beat by other drivers. Bubba Wallace 15th. Speaking of Bubba Wallace,
hey Denny, my favorite driver beat you.
Right?
Kyle finished ahead of you. He might not have won the race, but he beat you.
He sure did. Speaking of Bubba Wallace, DoorDash is no longer a sponsorship for the number 23 Toyota this year.
Oh wow! When was that?
Their 5-year contract.
My next job is
I want to say it was Tuesday before our show. I just didn't get a chance to mention it.
Okay.
Chasey Elliott, 16th. Kyle Larson, 17th. Austin Cindric, my boy, 18th. Finally, a stellar run this season. Stellar run, because he is good on road courses. Zane Smith, 19th. Shane Van Gisbergen. It took me a while to pronounce his name properly. Finished 20th in his, I want to say, his Cup Series debut. No, second, third. I meant
this
with
weekend
colleague
was his
racing.
third start in the Cup Series.
I meant with colleague. My bad. I meant with colleague racing.
Yeah.
John Hunter Nemechek 21st. Carson Hostefer 22nd. Ryan Priest 23rd. Corey LaHoy 24th. Austin Dillon, who should never be in at number 3, 25th. Todd Gilliland 26th. Kaz Grala in the 27th. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 28th. Kumai Kobayashi in
There you go.
29th.
Got it.
Which is a 50 car, which is supposed to be technically the 67 car for 23 Racing, but because of Mobil 1 celebrating its 50th year, 2311 has actually adopted the number 50 car for this season. Kobayashi. That's 30th was Harrison Burton, Daniel Suarez, Amigo 31st, Eric Jones 32nd, Brad Keselowski 33rd, Noah Gragson 34th, Josh Berry 35th, Timmy Hill, Daniel Hemrick, Michael McDowell, and Justin Haley round out your remaining field.
It sucks
Speaking
for
of Justin Haley, the 51 car.
So what was it? I'm not gonna say anything bad about Justin Haley. I've met him on several occasions. He's a down-to-earth guy, cool as hell. I just don't think this Cup gig is for him. And this Cup racing is not, Cup cars aren't for everybody. Everybody can't just jump into a Cup car and go and start running, top 15, top 10,
Danica.
top 5. Danica. As I'd rather see her in a swimsuit in the race car. Okay.
I'm pretty sure. No comment.
But Justin Haley, he's had some good races this season. He ran I sat in turn 3 and 4 at Bristol Motor Speedway. Justin Haley had a very good car. I remember at one point he was running top 10 in a Rick Ware racing car. So, Cody Ware, he got arrested last year. We'll leave it at that. Obviously, Cody wasn't as good of a driver because we never saw that 51 any further than like 25th. And now we got Justin Haley, who's having bad weeks, but he's also having good weeks and getting those points. and getting those good finishes. So maybe they've got something over there, but
Right.
I hate to see him so far down on the list.
Let's see. So, as for those of you who was not aware, following the Cup Series race at Circuit of the Americas, Justin Haley's number 51, Rick Rail Racing Ford, was disqualified in post-race inspection
For not meeting
and
qualifications?
for not meeting. Let's see. Let me see if I can find it. But there
I
is
know there
actually
was a car that got disqualified for not meeting
yes.
post-race
So
weight.
it was the 51 car. So the 51 was disqualified. So it has here in front of me. So the minimum vehicle weights for road course events. The driver weight bracket is between 140 and 149 pounds. Means that the ride height which means that the minimum height has to be 3525 for minimum vehicle weight without driver. Minimum right side weight has to be 1660, and the minimum left side weight has to be 1840. So for drivers within 130 to 139, would have to be 35, 1660, 1850. So I'm not sure if it was because of the driver's ride height or what, but he pretty much but it was pretty much a stupid, honestly, it's kind of a stupid ride height thing. It's something stupid. But if you guys go into NASCAR.com, it'll have inside the race, and it's basically Steve Letarte explaining what happened with the 51 post race. So basically, the rule is it is the responsibility of each team to ensure their vehicle meets specific weight requirements. After a race,
no more BBs and no more shaving metal these days.
Yep. After a race, you can add fuel to a fuel cell. Wheels and tires cannot be changed, and no other fluid may be added. C. After a race, the minimum vehicle weight must be within 0.5% of minimum weight required to start race. For all events, maximum vehicle nose weight is 51.5% of the vehicle's total weight without a driver. I think it was twice as that. But we'll go deep into more. I'm gonna do some more research on it. We'll go into more deep details on it tomorrow night.
All right.
But we want to thank Matt Jaskol for stopping by, for telling us his amazing racing career. And Kevin, we will see you tomorrow night. It sucks that you can't go to Richmond.
Yeah, but the week of it was just a little bit last minute. But
yeah.
I'll definitely make it at some point. And
Yep. And for our there was no way in hell I'm doing this job. Anyway. But on top of that, what was I about to say? Son of a bitch.
Hey, there will be no name calling.
Do we know what?
I said, hey, there will be no name calling. You don't talk about my mom like that, Jordan.
You stupid. Okay, for those of you that knows, Ava Dobson of J. Howard Racing was on our show back in November. If you guys could, for us, on behalf of Motor Racing Podcast, Kevin Marble and myself, and Ava Dobson and J. Howard Racing, please donate to the Colorado State University Animal Cancer Care Center. Any dollar amount helps. All proceeds go to J. Howard Racing and the Colorado State University Animal Cancer Care Center. And also, please donate to the NASCAR Foundation as well as the Joey Logano Foundation. And Kevin, if there's any foundations you want people to donate to, you can feel free to put those in.
And it's not just because I'm a Kyle Busch fan, man, but for you guys out there that are suffering from IVF, take part and get some more information, but definitely donate to Kyle Busch and Samantha Busch's Bundle of Joy Foundation. Any little bit helps. They were able to help 35 families last year with IVF and be able to gift 35 families with an adorable baby. So it's a good cause. Check that out and donate to it. And I know that Kyle and Samantha have a bunch of stuff on there where they have silent auctions and raffles and stuff so you can win and donate at the same time. So check it out.
Yep. And with that being said, I'm going to watch the 2007 Freedom 100 tonight when I get off of work. And I'll do insight on it tomorrow. But tomorrow, don't miss Motor Racing Podcast, the preview hub, as we preview the race weekend at Richmond. Formula One in Japan. and the upcoming IndyCar race in a couple of weeks. This has been Motor Racing Podcast. We out.
Good night.